Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I am so glad that you are able to join me here today on this Friday at 9 o'clock, where every Friday, me, Deb Burton, Executive Director of RI Elder Info, brings you information that you or someone you know needs to know about. Now, our conversation today is going to be on a sensitive topic, so I do want to make you aware of that ahead of time, but please hit the like button, the share button, the bells, the whistles, all those social media cues that say, hey, check this out, because what we're talking about today is happening far more frequently than we would ever like it to happen. We wouldn't like it to happen at all, but we are going to have a conversation about a resource available for individuals who are victims of elder abuse. And sadly, we do have a large number of individuals who are fitting in that category. So this is a really important episode this week. Not that all of our episodes aren't, but this one is particularly important that we get the word out. Now, as you all know, RI Elder Info brings you Friday Friends with the support of our sponsors and our donors. So a huge thank you to Point 32 Health, United Healthcare, 321 Media, Age Friendly Rhode Island Foundation, Social Enterprise Greenhouse, with an especial shout out to Careforth as our sponsor for Friday Friends. Here's a message from Careforth.
Caregiving, first of all, is the most selfless act. You're just on 24/7. In order to do all that, you need someone to make sure that you, as the caregiver, are taking care of yourself. And nobody cares for your family like you do. You love them. The whole program is amazing to get paid for something that you would do even if you weren't getting paid. You're not just one person, but you have a whole team behind you. And we're all here to help.
Hi, Melanie. How are you today?
Hi, Deb. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. So please tell everybody, what is the St. Elizabeth's Haven?
So St. Elizabeth Haven for Elder Justice it's a community-based program. We are funded through the Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women for the grant End Abuse and Later in Life. So our program works with older adults in the state of Rhode Island. I'm sure you guys know, but just in case, 16 older. So we take any Rhode Island resident, as long as they're 60 or over, men or women, doesn't matter, who are facing some type, unfortunately, of elder abuse. And we know there's a big gamut of elder abuse happening. We call it the silent epidemic because it's not really, we don't talk about it. And we definitely don't report it like we should. And I'm sure Deb has talked about reporting of elder abuse, but we have a case manager, and they work with older adults in helping them be safe. Now, safety means differently for different clients, right? And we call the Haven for Elder Justice because justice also means something for different. So if someone's willing to leave and want to be sheltered, we do have a shelter program that's roughly around generally 30 days. Sometimes it can extend under situations. So we have our shelter. We do community-based programs. So we work with them. We create safety plans. We help them through the legal system if they want to do a restraining order. Sometimes they want to get divorced. We do that. And then we also do education and training. So we go out, talk to older adults, talk about what is elder abuse and how to keep themselves safe.
And just for clarity, provide a little bit of information on what an elder abuse might look like, because I think sometimes because we don't talk about it often enough, and even though I do talk about it on here, I think we don't necessarily recognize that it can be our loved ones, or in some cases it could be that caregiver who's really reached the end of their rope and tied a knot and fell off the rope anyway. So could you share a little bit about what elder abuse might look like?
Yeah, it's not always something you can just look at somebody and just be like, ah, yes, because you really have to gain the trust of that older adult, right? And really just listen to them. You want to look, maybe if you're a community member, like has someone maybe like, sometimes people deprive food and medicine from someone as a form of abuse. So, have they lost a lot of weight suddenly? But there's really no medical behind it, right? Obviously, medicine and different types of things with can make you lose or gain weight. But if it's not something tied to medical, why are they gaining or losing weight very rapidly, unexplainably? And maybe you go and visit and the pantry might look pretty bare because they're being financially abused and they no longer have the money to buy the food for themselves. We've had our elder advocate be in a home and the lights go out. So our elder advocate, goes downstairs and maybe it's a switch, something like that. No, someone took over their finances and their billing and didn't pay the electric bill. So they're now there. Obviously there is physical abuse, but people are really good about hiding it. And we talk about a lot, like it's from the collarbone down where things can be easily hidden. So it can look differently depending on it. But yeah, it's all about really getting to know and building rapport with somebody, even if it's in the community, just like noticing little things or just they're a little bit confused on what their money's coming from. People should always know how much they're getting monthly, whether it be a social security check, SNAP benefits, but they don't have a handle on it. So it can look differently with every case, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. If it's a situation of like, Mom, why don't you come live with me and you just turn over my check and I'll take care of everything.
We see that quite a bit, quite often, actually, more and more. As we know, scamming has become just skyrocketing through the roof. I think we like to think as scammers as people we don't know, maybe that Facebook person or that king of whatever, that prince who needs your help. I think we like to think that that's happening more and more. And while it is happening and we are seeing it, I'm not discrediting that. I don't think we like to think about the fact that a lot of times it's trusted loved ones or caregivers who might be financially abusing. And we tend to know that abuse kind of happens concurrently, right? So financial abuse might be happening, but then there might also be physical or neglect. And we talk about intentional neglect a lot. Depriving somebody of a safe shelter. We had a client one time roaming the streets at night in a snow blizzard in just like her house coat.
Mm.
She didn't really have access to like seasonally appropriate clothing. So yeah, we don't like to think about it, but a lot of times it's someone being like, oh, I can help take care of mom. I can help take care of dad. I can help take care of Auntie Sheila and I will take care of it. I will make sure their bills are paid. Don't worry about it. I got you. And then months down the line, bills aren't being paid. Credit cards are being opened in their name. Oh my gosh, we've seen gambling, like now you can do online gambling now. I don't know how it works. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I know it exists.
But like there's like you can go online gambling and like they have like accounts set up in their names. We've had non-mobile, like non-ambulatory residents all of a sudden have like a gym membership in their name. And it's just like, if you
Yep.
need any help getting out of bed, I don't know if you're necessarily going to the gym quite regularly, monthly. So it's always that trusted piece that we don't like to think happens, but it does. And we've seen people like lose their homes. They signed off, they quick deeded their homes out, which is tough to get around. And
So you've got that son who says, Dad, you have to sign over the house to me here, or else you're not going to see the grandkids. And
there's
so, like,
definitely a lot
you
of
love the
that.
grandkids, you want to see them, and so, what harm could it be? They're going to inherit the house anyway, and so you sign it over. Next thing you know, they're selling it.
Yes, so when we do our trainings a lot, especially with law enforcement or drug service providers, we never want to blame the victim in any situation. And I think our society has gotten really good at blaming the person who is being abused. Why didn't they leave? Or why are they still there? If it was me, I'd be long gone. And that's great that you might have the resources and capabilities of leaving a situation. Not everyone does. And
Right.
we talk about why don't you leave, but what gives that person that right to take away that freedom that you have of, the threatening that could happen. People don't necessarily wake up and say, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to a nursing home today. I'm not saying that nursing homes are bad, but
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people aren't saying that's the first thing they want to do. Is they don't want to lose that caregiver. Because if what the person's telling them is, if you report to me, I'm not gonna help you out. I'm not gonna take care of you anymore. You're not gonna see your grandkids. That's a big deal to people. So whenever we're talking to people, we always want to say we want to shift our narrative, especially as a society, and saying what gives them the right to threaten them and to deprive them of the basic needs of life, care of life.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think a lot of times from a societal perspective, we do blame the victim. And in many ways, I think elder abuse and awareness of it is about where domestic violence between spouses was back in the 60s or 70s. Like, it happens behind closed doors, people don't talk about it. But for many of our older loved ones, they're in their home that they've been in for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, their whole life maybe. And to say, well, why don't you leave? Sometimes for our older adults, I know in talking to people, there are some really nuts and bolts practical challenges of, I can't walk down my front stairs without help. You're talking about, why didn't I leave? I physically can't.
Yeah. And it's also going back to it's like, why are they leaving? It's just like,
Yeah.
it's just like, why isn't the other person leaving and figuring it out themselves? Like, it's tough. It is. And, unfortunately with elder abuse, with any type of world that we live in, we have to focus on isms, right? Any biases that we have. And ageism is a real thing. And it's very easy for me, let's say I'm caretaking my mom, right? And I'm just doing things that shouldn't be happening. The police comes to my house. I'm like, officer, mom's just, she's not all there anymore. She has dementia. We think she has dementia a little bit. I'm the POA. I can make decisions. And people are taking that at face value. They're not questioning anything because to them, an old adult probably does have it. And that's not the case. And, we're not asking BAPCA questions. We're not asking the follow-up. We're not asking, are they really the POA of this? We're not asking for medical documentation that mom or dad might have dementia, Alzheimer's, or any kind of life-threatening. And we just take it at face value instead of saying no, because we know that 8-year-olds can be living the great life. And I've seen, let's tell you, I work right next door to a senior apartments, and these ladies are bustling. They walk miles outside the parking lot, okay? They walk faster than I could. Let me tell you.
Yes.
So it's just like we cookie cutter all older adults, and that's not the case.
Right. And you bring up a really good point about the power of attorney, like healthcare powers of attorney, because it's important for literally everybody over the age of 18 to have a healthcare power of attorney named and documented in their file. Because if you're not able to make your decisions known, that's the role of the healthcare power of attorney. But note exactly what I said. It's when you're not able to make your decisions known. So if you've, named someone and they're abusive to you, it doesn't mean, oh, I'm the power of attorney and I get to do blah, blah, blah. No. Are you able to make your own decisions known? And yeah, someone may have a cognitive impairment. It could be dementia. It could be maybe aphasia or a stroke or something like that. But if you can communicate, if sometimes what you're saying isn't 100% perfect, you still have the right to make decisions about your own life. So, if somebody out there is watching and is saying like, oh my God, like I gave, so and so power of attorney over me, are they going to take advantage of me?
Mhm.
Understand it's only a valid document when you're not able to make decisions for yourself. And that takes your doctor and medical determinations that, you're unconscious on the floor. You can't make your decisions known because you're unconscious. But if, help is coming because you're in a bad situation, waving the document of saying, oh, I'm the power of attorney, I get to do whatever I want. It's not true.
And also, I think what people forget too is that a power of attorney doesn't mean they make decisions for everything. It might just be medical decisions. That doesn't mean they have the right to spend money. And I think we see a lot of times too, like with older adults who have multiple children, they make children, not one person,
Right.
the decision making for everything. Maybe someone is better at money, so you make them the POA in terms of like financially, or someone might be better at making the health decisions that the older adult wants, that aligns with what they prefer, right? When they can no longer make the decision. So I think POAs get used as a blanket term, but they're not blanket documents.
Oh, I love that. That is a really good way to say that.
And the good thing about our program too is, we work with the older adults, and they are part of for the first time, they are part of a decision-making opportunity. We had one client, all she wanted was a divorce. That's all she wanted. She wanted her maiden name back. And for her, that's what she wanted. She no longer wanted to be tied to this person. And we were able to help make that happen. Now, obviously, part of us, we would love to nail the guy to the judicial system. Maybe. And
that's where it's justice, because it goes by what she wants.
Yes. But, we help them in that decision making for the first time.
I love that.
Yeah.
So if someone is in an unsafe situation, the first thing like that friends, family, neighbors, anybody should do would be to report that to Adult Protective Services. And that's the 401-462-0555 number.
Correct. And that's where we get our referrals from too. Yes.
Okay. So that's it. So if you think something's a little shady with, your elderly neighbor, something's not quite right, everybody in the state of Rhode Island is a mandatory reporter. Like nobody can say, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm just a neighbor. No, you're required to report. And again, that's the 401-462-0555. So then Adult Protective Services would visit with the person, and then they would outreach to the St. Elizabeth's Haven.
Yeah. So then we'll make contact with the older adult who there's prospectively in an unsafe position. I don't want to say that they are or aren't, because, we just go in. And then our biggest thing that we always do is a safety plan first. We go over the program, what their needs might be, but safety plan is the key. So older adults choose to go back and they choose not to leave. And that's not something that we can judge for. It's just, we're here as a way of when you want help, when you need help, if you're ready to leave, we are here. And we will make a connection with them. We might check in regularly. We've had to lie a few times, say if it's like a house phone, and say like, oh, it's Cox Cable.
Yeah.
You do what you gotta do, okay? Sometimes.
Right. Yeah, you have to do what you have to do to keep someone safe. And if the conversation, if the person, maybe has the abuser there, much like an individual, a younger individual in a domestic violence situation, you have the unusual conversation of, hi, yes, it's Cox Communication. Is Bob there? Hi, Bob. Is now a good time to talk? No, I can't do that right now.
Exactly.
All right, and then we've looked back.
We've looked out with a lot of like local agencies where like we've used senior centers to meet with them there, because a lot of senior centers have like transportation too. So we'll meet there. We might meet at like a Dunkin' Donuts, because there's always Dunkin' Donuts somewhere in Rhode Island. Yes. We try to meet them literally where they're at, like physically where they are at. And it helps, and that way they're not under like the, under the thumb of the person hovering over them. We've gone and met, unfortunately, at ER departments, done that before.
Yep.
And it's just.
And if somebody is in the emergency room, or maybe they're at home and they do need to get out, but they need help with walking, or maybe with like getting in and out of the shower, or like personal care, maybe they can't cook their foods anymore. Are you guys able to help them, like actually physically get out of the house? Like if they're in a wheelchair or something, and then get them to an environment where they can get the care that they need?
So that's kind of our niche, actually, where we don't have like necessarily like a shelter, like a physical shelter as like a EBC house or like a Crossroads. We work with nursing homes, assisted livings, sometimes the senior apartments too, if a senior apartment is like where their level of care is at. So whatever the level of care is at, that's where we bring them to. Now, safety is obviously a huge thing. No one particularly knows why they're there except the key players. The front desk people are trained how to react if someone comes there or they're calling. We've had, people call around asking where they were, their husband, they can't find them. And they just, is Joe Smith there? And oh, there's no Joe Smith here. And they're upstairs on the 3rd floor. But, no one needs to know that. And so some people do transition there and they stay there because that's the level of care that they need. Yeah, and that's where they're safe. Sometimes it is an assisted living, so that way there's always someone there. There's CNAs that come in and out. So that's kind of our niche where we help, is where someone who needs the actual care, like, the medical, physical care that, wouldn't allow them into your average, like, DV shelter.
You're right. And I would imagine, too, that you must have stories of individuals who maybe have come in, we'll say at the nursing home level of care, because of the level of trauma that they've experienced, unfortunately, in the environment that they were coming out of. Mm-hmm. And once they were able to maybe get the proper nutrition, get the medication in the proper times and amounts, and get a little physical therapy, that they're actually able to become far more independent than they were when they were being victimized.
Yeah, and we've had people transition to housing, just normal, renowned housing. So they put their name on the list, and, with a police report, you can kind of jump the list a little bit if there's like a DV situation involved to it. Mm-hmm. So that works in our favor. And oh gosh, one was so lucky. We just happened to get like a random donation of furniture. This woman landed an apartment that was like fully furnished.
That's wonderful.
And it was amazing. Like, she was just like, this is my life now. She's like, I don't have to like, be nervous or scared. And I think that one, like, it's a tough situation. So like sometimes the stars align and we just get them into like housing. But we also talk about that some people choose to go back to the home, and that's their prerogative as a consenting older adult. And, any adults, they can choose whether or not we agree with it. That doesn't mean we should, go, okay, we don't rid our hands of anybody. We still stay in contact with them. We create a safety plan, still maybe create a different one that's more appropriate to them staying in the house. Mm-hmm. And just be there for them.
I love it. So for all of these services that you're providing, you said, sometimes the stars align and the individual was able to get the furniture and everything that she needed. But there's some realities that, what you're doing costs money. It takes staff, it takes effort, it takes, maybe people who want to put together, like, I don't want to say a goodie bag, but like a bag of, shampoo, conditioner, soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, those kinds of things, so that if that older adult does need to leave their environment quickly, that there's something that they could receive, that it's like someone out there is caring. So if people watching want to support your work, how can they do that? Do you need volunteers? Do you need donations? Would it be good if a group of people wanted to put together kind of a piece bag?
Yeah, I think the bags are like a really great idea. We never charge the client, first of all. I just want to put that out there. That's all grant funded. And we do have like money set aside always to buy like personal items because like generally they are just leaving. So like shampoos, also like knitting needles are fun too. Like we like to give people something they enjoy doing, maybe some puzzle books, just something to help keep them. Like that's always a fun thing. But generally we don't take donations. We just do things with our grant funded.
Okay.
We've definitely gone on this is back when Walmart was open 24 hours. There's definitely been like Walmart runs at like 11 o'clock at night.
That's it. A lot of times we think of our younger folks who absolutely also need support. But our older adults are facing a lot of challenges. So I am very grateful for St. Elizabeth's Haven. It's a wonderful program, and anything I can do to support the work that you guys are doing, because it's so important, because elder abuse is growing.
It is. And
I'm so happy you could come on today.
Thank you so much. And we know that, by 2030, which is what, 2.5 years away at this point, 3.5 years, that the 16 over is going to be 60% of the population of Rhode Island. So,
yeah. So that creates a lot of opportunity, sadly, for victimization. So, yeah.
So check on your neighbors, check on your folks.
Yep. Thank you so much. And the first step, if anybody is concerned, is to call Adult Protective Services. Thank you, Mel.
Thanks, Deb. I appreciate it.
Everybody, elder abuse is one of those things that is happening behind closed doors. Our older adults sometimes can be, for lack of a better descriptor, a perfect victim, because they're not necessarily engaged with a lot of different people in the community. And so when this is happening behind closed doors, it's important that if you see something, you say something. If you think someone is not safe, you hear that yelling, you notice that family member comes around on the first of the month or whatever day the check hits the bank, you notice someone is struggling, maybe their clothes are no longer clean. And of course, if you see bruises, but like Mel said, people who are physically abusive will usually abuse in the areas covered by clothing to hide their crime. So if you think something's wrong, make sure you call Adult Protective Services at 401-462-0555, and they can make the connection to the safe haven in order to get that older adult the help that they need. We are all in this together, and every single one of us, Lord willing, will become an older adult. So the work we do to establish safety mechanisms is work that we may need for ourselves one day. So we got to keep that in mind. I know we've had a heavy conversation today and we've gone a little long, but it was really important. I am so grateful that you have all joined me and stayed with me. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.